The next one is the Scannell property, and this is going to be a more in-depth conversation. The members of the committee that will be voting on it have received some additional information about the company and developer. In January, the county commissioners sent a letter to the developer because they have not been performing based on their agreements and had not been in compliance with a few things. That letter is included with people that need to vote on it, have it, as well as a response from them about things that they are working towards completing. On this list, if you can read it, you might need some readers, it's pretty small. And then also a letter from a Etna Township resident and a member of the Etna Township NCA, the Community Authority Board, and it's also included in that. I'm going to give you a moment to review the materials. There's a lot of text there, and this was not provided to you prior to the meeting, so I'm going to give you a few minutes to look at it and ask any questions that you might have.
It says on here the abatement is not active on the county auditor's website yet. What does that mean?
That means that they haven't filed their documentation with the auditor's office or the state of Ohio to put the abatement on the tax record. So they have not received any benefit from the abatement as of yet.
Is there a reason why? Or would you speculate?
I don't know.
I mean, some of these items on here say that they are supposed to be completed, and then some of them they're not supposed to start until 4/3.
Say it again.
Some of the items on here are complete, some of them are not complete, and some of them don't start until 4/3. And then there's also some on here that the work's to be completed by 4/3. But they've not asked for any tax abatement at this point. Well, they've asked for it, but they've not filed a paperwork for it.
Correct.
So what's the follow-up going to be?
So the decision of this board would be to recommend to the commissioners whether or not to continue the tax abatement. And the commissioners ultimately have the discretion to make the decision on whether or not to continue the tax abatement. This is just a recommendation from this board. So we wanted to make sure that you guys had all the information available that has been going on with this property over the past few months, so that you can make an informed recommendation.
How can we continue an abatement that's not active?
So it's not active because they haven't filed the paperwork. The commissioners can take action to cancel, to discontinue the agreement, whether or not, so that would prevent them from actually filing the paperwork to receive the abatement in the future.
Okay.
I'm so glad that she understands.
Thanks for asking, John.
So does it matter what we do, or is it up to the commissioners whether the paperwork is filed or not?
You can make a recommendation to the commissioners. The commissioners are ultimately the ones that vote on whether to continue or discontinue a tax abatement. Most of the time, the commissioners, I've not ever seen a situation where a council or commissioners has gone against a TIRC recommendation. Last year, Velvet was voted to be discontinued, and the commissioners also voted on that. So it is the recommendation of this board that the commissioners take into account when they make their decision.
What if the commissioners vote?
Typically, it's within about a month of this board meeting.
So in theory, we could see the underway or complete.
Yes.
If we vote to continue, it'll just pick up when they file the paperwork, and will the 15 years be extended or go from last year?
The 15 years wouldn't start until their paperwork is filed.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to continue the abatement through June 30th of this year, providing that they, Scannell or whoever, completes the items on this checklist, and leave it up to the commissioners at that point what they want to do after that.
Okay. Is there anyone else interested in seconding that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of continuing the abatement up until June 30th of this year, based on the Scannell's ability to complete their punch list of items, and then leaving it to the commissioners to decide after that? Say aye. That was
Aye.
all right. All opposed, please say no. Can you make sure that that's, thank you. It's very specific.
I'll just say it out loud. A motion to continue the abatement through June 30th, 2023, provided that Scannell completes the items on the checklist provided in the supplemental packet.
You might want to reference the letter from the commissioner January 26th, 2023, because that's attached to that letter.
Can you say the date again? I'm sorry.
January 26th of 2023.
And the punch list, March 17th.
Yeah, because the punch list is attached. Thank you.
All right, another interest.
I'm Gary Burkholder, 254 Trail East Etna Township. I'm a resident of Etna Township. My major concern is the Scannell abatement. I've been working with residents that have been negatively impacted by some of the things that have been left incomplete, which you have a list of those items. We've worked with the county planning, who's gone out and done those inspections. They filed a violation letter back in August of last year. This has been going on for 2 years. I don't really support the motion to continue that until June 30th based on that checklist, because there are still zoning violations in the township that still are outstanding, and I realize that list deals with the subdivision deficiencies, but we're having problems with lighting out there. The wall is not tall enough. There are problems with sound. FedEx butts up to a row of residences on Lynn's Road. And they have been fighting this for 2 years, and I think it sets a bad precedent to continue abatements for companies that have virtually no concern for the quality of life for our residents in Etna Township. This isn't the only area. We have some other ones on Mink where these large warehouses are going right next to residential. Some of this falls on the responsibility of the Etna Township trustees and the zoning when it comes to setbacks and buffering. But I intend to speak out at the county commissioners meeting and ask them to stop this abatement. I believe it's the only way we're going to hold these developers accountable, that if you don't commit to what you promise, then those abatements are going to go away. And I have a question which I can ask later, but for example, on Scannell, will they be responsible since they haven't filed for the 2022 property tax? If they file now within the next month or so, will they still get that abatement going back on 2022?
It would only be going forward, is that correct?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
So-
I'm going to have to ask the experts.
right.
In many cases, the property owners will ask if the agreement was that it would start in '22 or the '22 tax year payable '23, and they file late and they file in '23, we can go back to '22. In most cases, we try to discourage that with municipalities because typically the developer, property owner, and municipality are reaching out to us saying, hey, we know they're late, we meant for this to happen, we want it to go backwards. I'm guessing the municipality may not agree with that, but in most cases, we encourage the property owner to only go forward because typically they're only getting maybe 80% valuation in some cases, reduced, or 50% in some cases, and you say, why don't you wait till next year when you have 100% reduction? And typically they'll always go for the reduction regardless of the amount. So And maybe because of actually furniture as an example, they want it up front as quick as they can get it, not knowing what the future holds. Will they be there for 15 years or whatever the number is? So I think if they request that and there's support for that from Etna Township, we would probably grant that. Very likely.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is to adjourn, so I would accept the motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor to adjourn? Thank you very much for your participation in this